Okay, Perspectives of Pediatric Nursing, Chapter 1. The World Health Organization defines health in this way, that it is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and it is not merely the absence of disease. I think a helpful way to look at this is that our health is really three continuums, both physical, mental, and social, and we can be healthy or unhealthy in all of them. So a child who's in the hospital is probably on the unhealthy side of physical, that's why they're there. But if they're feeling safe, they're not scared, they're comfortable in the environment they're in, they're relatively healthy mentally. Their family's with them, the family is supporting each other, coping well. Socially, they're very healthy. What are some of the problems of childhood health? Well, obesity and type 2 diabetes are a real problem these days. Something we didn't see in the past. In fact, we called it adult onset diabetes in the past, but now we're starting to see it. And the main reason for that is between 1980 and 2000, the number of overweight children doubled, the number of overweight adolescents tripled. Why? Well, because we have sedentary activities now. Kids sit on a couch and watch TV or play video games, where in the past they went outside and ran and played in active ways. We also have high-calorie, fatty foods now. Kids will sit there on that couch eating chips and drinking soda. And we know that certain ethnic groups have a higher likelihood of developing certain diseases. So Hispanic, African American, Native American children, just like adults, are more likely to have problems with type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance going along with that, hypertension, and heart disease. As far as childhood mortality, meaning how do children die? Well, injuries are the leading cause of that. What kind of injuries, or where do those injuries come from? The main cause is motor vehicle accidents. So for children over 1, the leading cause of death is motor vehicle accidents. The other most likely ways children die is through drowning, burns, poisoning, and firearms. And you can see some pictures here that come out of your book of a child backing up the car. I actually know someone whose preschool daughter did that, had seen the mom every day get in the car, back out of the driveway, and when she was 3 or 4, she got in there, she took mom's keys, turned the car on, put it into reverse, backed up straight into the car parked on the other side of the street. I mean, fortunately, nobody was hurt. But kids imitate what we do, and driving looks fun to them. Drowning, another big problem. Kids love water. They're curious about it. And if you have a pool, please have it fenced. Burns, it's easy to see how that can happen. You're distracted for a moment, a child reaches. And firearms. Guns and the ammunition should never be stored in the same place. Just too tempting for children. That tends to be kids a little bit older, between the ages of 5 and 14. That's, they're old enough to really be curious, but also have the manual dexterity to play around with the guns. Okay, something called the new morbidity is behavioral, social, and educational problems. And we see 1 out of 5 children who are school age have some sort of a mental health problem. The most common one is ADD, ADHD. Now if we look at infant mortality, so this is under a year, and this is defined as the number of deaths per 1,000 live births. It's divided up into both the neonatal period, which is those first 28 days of life, and postnatal period, so after 28 days of life, but under a year. The U.S., we're doing better than we used to do in this, but we have the highest infant mortality rate out of developed countries. And for developed countries, they look at countries who have over 2.5 million of population. There's 27 of those. This, you will not have to memorize this, but this is just kind of to show what the typical numbers are, and that we are the highest. This doesn't include all 27, but just a scattering. Now, just to defend the U.S. a little bit, a lot of these other countries don't deliver a lot of the babies that we do. Some of the preterm babies that we try to save who don't make it, they would just pronounce dead at birth, and a whole lot of them have a very high abortion rate. So children who would have had some sort of anomalies and were not likely to live are not birthed. So even though we are last, that's not good, but it's a little bit of a skewed statistic. So why do we lose these babies? The biggest cause is low birth weight. The lower the birth weight, the higher the chance of mortality. A child less than 2,500 grams, 2.5 kilograms, which is 5.5 pounds, that's where we really see high mortality rates. And those of you who have been in NICU, you've seen kids with considerably lower than that birth weights. Other risk factors, well, again, certain ethnic groups, there's just higher risks. African American, it's higher. Male babies, across the board, male babies are not as hardy as female babies. So we lose more male babies. Either a short or a long gestation, so a child is born preterm or goes more than the 2 weeks over term. Maternal age, your teenage moms and your mothers over 40. And also maternal education. The lower education of the mother, the more likely there are to be complications and problems. And that also is true, that they're less likely to have gotten adequate prenatal care. This lists the death rate by ages. So now we're only looking at the U.S. Overall, how many children do we lose every year per 100,000? Well, 848.5. You can see the vast majority of those are less than 1 year of age, over 684. The next highest age group where we lose kids is that teenage, 15 to 19, and then it would be the between 1 and 4, then 10 to 14, then 5 to 9, kind of jumps back and forth. And in general, boys, we lose more than girls. That's true. Just sicknesses, boys tend to, during those first years of life, there are more sicknesses among boys, and then during those teen years, there's more risk-taking behavior. They just do dangerous things that some of them die from. Okay, childhood morbidity. So now we're talking about illnesses, not death. This would include both acute illnesses, chronic illnesses, and disabilities. Very hard to give exact numbers because it's hard to define and measure exactly what's going on. A lot of illnesses never go into the doctor, so are you talking about things that are only seen by a doctor? Are you talking about things that are only treated in a hospital? So anyway, that's what makes it difficult to come up with really perfect numbers on these. We do know certain groups are much more likely to have childhood illnesses. If you have a family who's homeless, their children will have more sicknesses, more severe sicknesses, more likely to be hospitalized. Children who are poor, children who are chronically ill, foreign-born adopted children, we see a lot of illnesses, and then children who are in daycare. They're just exposed to more because they're around more kids. The biggest cause is respiratory illnesses. They make up at least 50% of all childhood illnesses, the most common of which is just the common cold, which, kids get several of those every year typically. Family-centered care. This is a really important concept in pediatrics. Family-centered care says that the family is the constant in a child's life. Regardless of where they're being treated or who's treating them, we need to remember the family is the one constant in their life. So all of our systems need to support, respect, encourage, and enhance the family's strength and competence. And the needs of all family members have to be addressed, not just the sick child. And this is done through enabling and empowerment. So by enabling the family, we give them the ability to learn what they need to learn to care for their child. Empowerment is we give them a sense of control, that we've taught them how to do the care, and now they also feel like they can do it, and they can be the advocate for their child, and they can provide the care their child needs. Another really important concept is atraumatic care. In atraumatic care, our goal is to eliminate or minimize physical or psychological. I said those in the opposite order of how they're written, but both. We want to minimize or eliminate the distress the child will feel. So we do that by preventing or minimizing the separation between the child and the family, promote a sense of control, minimize bodily injury and pain. Now, in order to do this, we have to develop a therapeutic relationship with both the child and the family. And that takes us back to that enabling and empowerment. And our first goal is always to do no harm. Some of the things we do hurt. And if we can treat the child without hurting them, that's what we want to do, to first do no harm. The United Nations declared a list of rights for children. They have the right to be free from discrimination. They have the right to develop physically and mentally in freedom and dignity. They have the right to have a name and a nationality. They have a right to have adequate nutrition, housing, recreation, and medical services. And they have a right to receive special treatment if they're handicapped. Some of the other rights include they have the right to receive love, understanding, and material security, to receive an education, to develop their abilities, and to be the first to receive protection if there's a disaster. They're also have a right to be protected from neglect, cruelty, and exploitation, and to be brought up in a spirit of friendship among people. Okay, evidence-based nursing practice. This is what we're really trying to go to with all of nursing, including pediatrics. When we're providing evidence-based care, we start out by asking a question. Is this the right way to treat this? Then we search for evidence. What do we see? We critically analyze the evidence. When this type of treatment was used, did the child get better? Did they respond well? Then we take the evidence that we've found and we make nursing implications based on that. Almost all children in this situation do better with this, and so we're going to try it on, the next child. So that's evidence-based practice, backing up what we do with research. In pediatrics, we use the nursing process, just like in all other nursing care. So we begin with our assessment, and then our diagnosis or problem identification. We make a plan, we implement the plan, and we evaluate whether that plan achieved our goal, if it needs to continue or to be revised, and we document what we've done and how it worked.